subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify on this subject today. I thank the subcommittee for addressing this issue, which I think requires much more attention than it is getting today. Hezbollah, backed by Iran and Venezuela, is a determined and deadly enemy of the United States that has made substantial progress in the last 6 years to increase its activities in Latin America. This push is the result of a conscious, offensive strategy to spread its influence, legitimize its cause, and advance its violent jihad and operational capabilities on our doorstep. Unless our government and responsible partners in Latin America act soon, I believe there will be an attack on U.S. personnel, installations, or interests in the Americas as soon as Hezbollah leaders make a calculation that they are capable of carrying out such an operation without implicating their Iranian masters in that operation. Of particular interest to this subcommittee, I am sure, are a series of published reports that Hezbollah operatives have provided weapons and explosives training to drug trafficking organizations that operate across the U.S. border with Mexico. My conclusion is that U.S. authorities know more than they are willing to say publicly about this subject, and this Congress is right to insist on a thorough explanation of the threat and of our effective countermeasures. Our research has identified at least 2 networks associated with Hezbollah growing at an alarming rate in Latin America. One is operated by Hezbollah itself, aided by its collaborators, particularly from Venezuela, and another is managed by a cadre of notorious operatives on behalf of the Iranian Quds Force. These networks conduct fundraising, money laundering, narcotics trafficking, proselytization, recruitment, and training in the Americas. We can identify more than 80 operatives in at least 12 countries throughout the region, with the greatest areas of concern being Brazil, Venezuela, and the Southern Cone. A key operative in the Hezbollah network in Latin America is a man named Ghazi Atef Salmeh Nasruddin Abu Ali. His photograph is shown here with his brothers. He is a man who was born in Lebanon, became a Venezuelan citizen just 10 years ago, and is now Venezuela's #2 diplomat in Damascus, Syria. Along with these 2 brothers, Abdullah and Odeh, Nasruddin manages a network that raises and launders money and recruits and trains operatives to expand Hezbollah's influence in Venezuela and throughout Latin America. The individual who oversees the parallel Hezbollah network on behalf of the Quds Force is Mohsen Ravani, whose picture is shown here. He's a high-ranking Iranian wanted by prosecutors in Argentina for his role in the terrorist bombings in Buenos Aires in 1992 and 1994. Ravani was posted in Argentina at the time as the cultural attaché of Iran in Buenos Aires. Although Ravani is the object of an Interpol Red Notice, he travels frequently in the region. He was in Venezuela as recently as March 2011 and in Brazil last September. According to sources in Brazilian intelligence who were cited by the investigative journalist Leonardo Coutinho in the important Brazilian magazine Veja, at least 20 operatives from Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, and Islamic Jihad operate in Brazil as a hub for terrorist activity. Reportedly, Ravani has recruited dozens of Brazilian followers to his cause. In addition, Ravani taps a cadre of persons he has recruited in Argentina to spread Hezbollah's influence throughout Central and South America. Mr. Chairman, allow me to cite a few examples that show the potency of this threat to the U.S. homeland. At least one member of the terrorist network who was accused of plotting to detonate fuel tanks and pipelines at JFK's International Airport in 2007 met with the man Mohsen Ravani in Iran and was subsequently arrested by U.S. authorities by Trinidadian authorities en route to Venezuela, where he planned to board a Conviasa flight to Tehran, a regularly scheduled flight from the Venezuelan airline Conviasa to Tehran. One of Ravani's principal collaborators in the Americas is the Sunni radical imam in Brazil, who as far back as 1995 hosted Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden and 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. In August of last year, President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela hosted a secret summit in Caracas of some of the world's most notorious terrorist leaders right here in our hemisphere, including Hamas's supreme leader Khalid Mashal, Hezbollah's chief of operations, and the Secretary General of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. In conclusion, recent public statements suggest that U.S. diplomats, at least, are unaware of the increasing operations and reach of Hezbollah in this hemisphere. By contrast, U.S. law enforcement, particularly the DEA, have made great efforts to assess and to confront the threat, but this requires a whole-of-government approach, including an interagency review of the problem to understand, assess the transnational and multifaceted nature of this threat, to educate friendly governments in the region about what is happening, and to implement effective measures unilaterally and with willing partners to disrupt and dismantle these operations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.